yelling out gang gang. What up gang gang? Do you gang bang? I be outside with my gang bang. Throw your gang signs if you gang bang. I be outside with the gang. I'm from the Deuce, the Trey. The 8 to 5, I can't Deuce, the Trey. The Vic's the 8 to 9, I'm from the Deuce, the Trey. The Vic's the 8 to 9, I'm from the Deuce, the Trey. Hey, Shabazz and Master. Coming to you as soon as my camera is back in effect. I believe I know how to fix that. Here we are. Sorry about the little technical difficulties on the intro. Sorry about the somewhat tardiness of my arrival as I fade the music down. We're gonna get started. As you can see, my hair is a good 3.5 inches now, probably maybe 4 inches now. Maybe even gaining on 5, but I'm getting close to the full braid. So won't be long now. I figure probably early next month I'll get braided. Planning to go back to Pennsylvania for a little bit and to Georgia to see my daughter. And so I'll probably, get a nice fresh braid up and fade up before I go. But anyway, let's get started with today's topics. Without further ado, I hate when people slow walk me on podcasts. I hate when people just drag it so they can get their time and don't really put the effort into the actual topics that they say they're going to speak on. So I won't let that be me. Let me take down this banner here real quick, y'all. We'll get started. All right. First topic today, as you see, I am an Oregonian. I am a resident of the Portland area. I've lived in the city for a couple years, and I've lived on the outsides in the suburbs, the west side of the city, for the greater part of a decade. I seem to have a little unwanted feedback noise coming through here. I don't know where that's coming from. I'm going to see if we can fix that in just a second here. I think it may be well, it's not my local audio. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to try to make a quick change here and see how this works out. Nope, I got the same amount of noise going on. Maybe I could suppress it. Let's see if that works. Okay, if you're watching, if you would, please, in the chat, let me know if you can hear me okay. If you can hear that background noise, let me know if you can hear it as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to do a quick sound check over on YouTube to make sure my voice is audible. And then we'll talk about what is going on here in the great city of Portland, Oregon. Looks like we're good on YouTube. And all of a sudden, the interference went away. So we're clear. All right, y'all. Portland is, or was, the whitest major city in America. And that would surprise you. You might think Salt Lake City right off the bat. But I think they're neck and neck, essentially, in terms of the actual city composition and in terms of the white population. They're both very high white populated cities. So much so that Portland actually even resembles a European city. Downtown Portland, the cobbled street areas. Salute to my man Simo. But Portland's very much like it feels like Amsterdam, it feels like the Netherlands, it feels like the Norwegian states. Very much like that, right? And it's not a tough guy town, right? It has its muscular features, of course. People here are into some sports, but not like other cities. I mean, it's gaining sports popularity. As more Californians have moved here over the past decade, sports are becoming more of a cultural thing here. But when I first moved here, which was nearly 20 years ago now, with a stint in California of 6 years in between, I mean, for me, it was pure. And I never expected that I would fall in love with Portland, Oregon, or a city this white or what have you, right? But what you learn quickly about Portland is how welcoming the city is, how cool everybody is. And you learn you're not alone. There is black community, though it's small. And there is a great deal of Hispanic community, Indians, Asians, Pacific Islanders, everybody else that we don't really see as much on the East Coast where I grew up, especially in Western Pennsylvania when I was growing up. Everybody else is here. So I live next to a Chinese immigrant and I live next to a Hispanic guy. So it's Hispanic, Black, Asian. These three houses out in the suburbs, high value townhouses in the suburbs, right? This area that I'm in right now, Southeast Hillsborough, is dominantly populated in part by the Mexicans on the west side and Indians on the southeast side. So much so that if you go to Fred Meyer in my neighborhood, you'll walk in and see nothing but Indians. Almost nothing but. A few white people sprinkled here and there, but that's about it. You go to the other Fred Meyer and you'll see nothing but Hispanics. It's really like that, right? And then there are a lot of African immigrants out here where I live, as well as African Americans who migrated from Katrina. Portland was very welcoming and very inviting of Katrina, I want to use the correct words. Not refugees. We won't call American citizens refugees. Katrina survivors. Portland was very accepting of Katrina survivors, who are mostly black. So most of my friends when I got here wound up being black Louisianans, whom I found out were, some of the coolest people on earth, despite their reputation. Louisiana is a little grimy, but everybody I've met from down there has been really sweet. They've been like family to me, and they brought a whole lot of that Louisiana flavor to Portland, so much so that the chicken tastes different now, and the food is seasoned a little better. You go to the Moda, there's Bay's chicken, and like I said, they've had an impact on this area, a positive impact on this area, I should say, as well as a large African immigrant population, which I mentioned. We did have one issue with, I believe, an Eritrean immigrant, either an Eritrean or a Sudanese immigrant. No, pardon me, he was Somali, here in Portland maybe 10 years ago when he tried to blow up the Christmas tree lighting. And I can say that's only the only incident of extremism that I've seen really happen in Portland was somebody tried to blow up the Christmas tree lighting, and that was a Muslim, right? So we have had that in the past 10 years, but that's not really any different than what we had with the guy who, and this is the perfect representation of Portland. We had two Eastern European immigrants killed on the MAX train because a white American guy was threatening two black Muslim teenage girls. This man was an absolute nut job. And he stabbed these two men to death right on the MAX train in front of everybody. And those men gave their lives for those two black girls. That is a perfect illustration of life in Portland. Now, we don't see those extremist attacks very often. Those are the two that I can really name off the top of my head since I've lived here. I haven't heard about skinhead violence. I haven't heard about a whole lot of inner city violence, although during COVID things got pretty bad here, especially in Southeast Portland. It got really bad. But all of that was cyclical, and it was cyclical across the country. There was a murder backlog from COVID that just, people were supposed to be murdered. I know how that sounds, but people who were supposed to be murdered during those 2 years were not murdered. And so when we got let out of our cages again, The backlog got fulfilled, and that's why crime shot up so much. Salute to Will Stumbling. I see y'all. Two of my boys, C and Will, longtime supporters, longtime members of this channel, whether they pay a membership fee or not, those two are members for life, period. Appreciate you guys. But Portland is not a violent city. It's not a city filled with aggressive people. And we're going to talk about Antifa. Okay? Specifically Antifa. We're going to do what a whole lot of people don't do. And we're actually going to show Antifa what they look like. All right? I've heard a lot of people say Antifa doesn't exist. Antifa doesn't have an organization. They do and they don't. Antifa is like a boys club almost. Yeah, they're ideological and analogous to the Proud Boys, but not in the sense that they believe in violence. They believe in American civil liberties like you and I, hopefully. But they will show up to counter-protest Klansmen, Nazis, fascist pig governments, the police. They will show up. And if you don't live in the Pacific Northwest, you probably will not see them. But if you live in the Pacific Northwest, you know damn well they're up here. All right, and they may or may not grow in numbers, grow in ranks, become an opposition force. I think we're probably in for skirmish warfare that will seed out of the Pacific Northwest between the left-wing groups in Seattle and Washington and the right-wing groups in Idaho. Idaho and Eastern Oregon are particular strongholds for white supremacists, in case you didn't know. But let's look at some images of Antifa in Portland, just to give you an idea of who they are and how they show up for these counter-protests. Antifa does not show up heavily armed. They never do. They show up with clubs, shields, helmets. This right here, these guys, this is Antifa. This is what we're talking about in a nutshell. Let's open this in a new tab and get a better look at them. I didn't mean to open the whole article. I want to open the image. So we're going to copy the image address and just drop the image address in here. Boom. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, this is Antifa. Aren't they frightening? Super duper frightening. Here they are in protest action against the Proud Boys. This was probably pre-COVID, right before, the summer before COVID. So 2019 is likely that time. And that is when, all of that footage that Donald Trump has been living on was shot. That stuff hasn't happened in 6 years. This stuff here, 6 years. But of course, he's back in my city to try to provoke it to happen again. All right. Where's Antifa? That's MAGA right there. Obviously, that's MAGA. I'm looking to see where we can find Antifa guys. But I don't see him. I only see MAGA in that group. Let's take a look and see what we can... Okay, these look like Antifa guys right here. This looks like Antifa. Let's pop up. Usually they're in all black. You can see their symbology. No, this looks like more Trumpers. This is more Trumpers. Well, what the hell? What do we have here? Okay, this is your right wing versus Antifa. This is your right wing group we're looking at, I believe, in the black and red. I believe this is the interstate bridge between Portland and Washington. I could be wrong. Looks familiar. This looks like Antifa battling in Portland. The guy on the left here. You can see the shield. I'm really looking for... I think this is a good representation of how they typically show up to protest. Right here. Let's take a look at this one. It's the last image we'll look at before we move on. That's how Antifa shows up to protest, right there. That's Antifa. Not at all frightening, not at all scary. Nobody's carrying straps. At worst, they'll have clubs and shields. That's their get down. But they're there to oppose the worst people in society, which is why we should all be on their side in terms of what the hell is going on right now. And this unprovoked attack against the people who believe what they believe. Now here's Rose City Antifa, right? So again, people are saying that Antifa has no organization. Obviously, that's not true. They are organized here. And there are a small yet non-violent group, right? Now, the one time I can think of that some violent incident did happen involving someone who was probably Antifa was the activist who was murdered by federal troops in Vancouver, Washington. Will Stumbling says it's all over here, Zen Master. I know, man. It's some scary shit. But we're going to look at Vancouver man killed by federal troops in his parking lot. What happened was this guy was at a counter protest with the Proud Boys. Things went bad. Somebody sprayed bear spray into his face. He pulled out a gun and introduced him to his maker. His name was Michael Reinhold. Looking at that right now. Michael Reinhold. Okay. Here we are at the MarshallProject.org. And they have records here. Investigators complete a review of federal police shooting that killed a wanted Portland activist. Let's take a look at this. The Thurston County Sheriff announced Wednesday it has completed its 7-month investigation of federally deputized task force that shot and killed Portland activist Michael Forrest Reinhold last summer. Reinhold, a 48-year-old self-described anti-fascist who was wanted for murder, was killed by law enforcement officers near Olympia on September 3rd. According to Thurston County investigators reviewing the case, Reinhold initiated an exchange of gunfire with officers before he was killed. That is not, I repeat, that is not what eyewitnesses said. Eyewitnesses said them jump out boys jumped out, didn't say a damn thing, and just got the bucking. But we'll dig it deeper into that particular incident as we go along here. This piece seems to be taking the official statement. Maybe they speak more to it, but it looks like we have a video here. Warning: it does contain images of graphic violence. If we see anything too out of pocket, I'll stop it. But let's take a look at what this video has to offer regarding that shooting. Okay, Aaron Danielson is the guy who gets killed. Michael Reinhold is the shooter. You can see he's very proud boyed up. He's got gear on his legs. He's got a weapon in his hand, the bear spray itself. They're gonna interact with each other. This footage is courtesy of Oregon Public Broadcasting. You can see Reinhold here. Whoa. Reinhold looks like he's creeping on a come up, right? He's ducking these guys. Perhaps for an attack. We'll see what happens. But you see the stylish gentleman here with the Fuck 12 hoodie on, hugged up with his boo about to witness a murder. You see brother man riding down the street on a bird scooter. This is your typical Friday night in Portland, no doubt. Let's go. Okay, Rhino comes out from behind. Now, he did creep up on him. He's geared up again. And maybe because he saw it coming. Okay, this is Multnomah County Cop Watch. There's a verbal argument. The bear spray happens. Pop, pop. Y'all saw the bear spray. Let's go back, right? The bear spray definitely came before the pop, pop. Okay, Michael on the left, Aaron on the right. Listen. Shouldn't have been bear spraying niggas in the middle of the street. Shouldn't have been bear spraying them. Now, I ain't saying he should have did it, but I understand. For this act, Michael Rhino was wanted for murder, which was clearly an act of self-defense. Somebody bear sprays you in the middle of the street in a confrontation, and you're strapped. It is my firm belief that you have every right and every reason to blow their goddamn head off. I'm peaceful. I'm not strapped. But if I was, and I was in that scenario, like Michael was, oh yeah, I'd have did it too. Hit him with a 380. This is why I don't own a piece. Y'all want to know why I don't own a gun? Because I have a bad temper. That's why. I have a bad temper. And I will kill one of you motherfuckers. I'm joking. I have no desire to harm nobody. But I know myself well enough to know that, hey, look, man, I might have one of those incidents because there's times when you just feel, pushed into a corner and somebody, I'm a little dude. I'm 5'7", so people, especially bigger guys, like to think, you pussy. And you can fight your way out of certain situations, but certain situations you're not going to be able to fight your way out of. I faced an incident in Sacramento one time. I'll take a diversion real quick here. I faced an incident in Sacramento one time as I rolled me a joint where I'm in the club kicking it hard. The same club one of the clubs I go to at the Red Lion, right by the Arden Fair Mall, if you know Sacramento. I had a lot of fun at the Red Lion at the Arden Fair Mall in Sacramento. And also across the street at the hotel club, I think it was the Hilton across the street. Sacramento got some nice clubs, I'll put it that way. And some nice work up in those clubs. But yeah, I was at the bar or had just got in to the club one day. Fresh walked in, fresh pat down, because they do pat you down. And I walk over to the bar and I look and see this big dude talking to his woman. They about 5-6 feet back from the bar, so I'm like, thinking nothing of it. I step up to the bar, get ready to order me a drink. Here this nigga come barking over my shoulder and shit. I'm like, man, I got this elbow cocked like you wouldn't believe for this big man. I practiced karate for 9 years when I was a kid. I ain't saying I'm going to win every fight, but I know how to take your ass out with one blow real quick. And nothing hits like an elbow coming this way across your jaw. Nothing. You're going to sleep. Somebody gets you on with an elbow. And I had this guy in range. I had him in perfect position for an elbow. My back turned to him. He's barking at me. I'm like, I should fuck you up, but I came here to kick it with these ladies. So, I turned around and gave him the verbal what for, like, nigga, I don't know you want to drink. You standing 5-6 feet from the bar. How the fuck I know you want to drink? Just gave him the gas face, looked him up and down. Like I said, I had just got patted down, so I knew nobody in the club, or thought nobody in the club was strapped. Somebody's in the club strapped. But it was one of those incidents, one of those nights where I was like, kind of wish I had a gun. Not so I could have shot that nigga at that particular moment, but in case he went and ran to his car, now I'm butt naked, as we say in the street, right? But again, if I had had one, I probably would have shot my mouth off that much more. I probably would have dared them and provoked them that much more, talked that much more shit. knowing I'm gonna run out to the car and get the burner. And that's how a lot of motherfuckers act. That's why I don't have a gun, because it makes you feel bigger than you are. It defies the natural order of things. Those big guys, they have every right in the world to feel like they can kick my ass. They should feel that way. They may not be right, but they should feel that way. Genetically, the law of nature says they can. 6, 7 times out of 10, they probably can. But boy, those 3 times out of 10, I'm gonna get you. And that's just the law of man. So you get a gun in your hand, now you're 6'10", and you've been pushed around your whole life. You feel small. Well, how the hell do you make yourself feel big? And that applies to all kinds of smallness, not just your physical stature, but your stature in society, your stature as a minority, your stature as a man with your woman, the way your kids look at you. All that shit can make you feel small as a person. And that gun, look at the mass shooters. Look how they behave. Look what they're after. They're after publicity. They're after sympathy. They want to be known. They want the world to look at them as somebody who did something for some cause. Because they want that attention and they have that hole. I think we all do to some degree. But some of us try to fill that hole with weaponry, fill that vulnerability with weaponry. I try to fill my vulnerability with knowledge and avoiding situations that are going to make me want to react to somebody like that. If it's a club with a nigga like that in it, I don't need to be in it. That night, I probably should have just left. You know, it might sound like a pussy thing to say, I'ma leave, let this nigga push me out the club or whatever. But it's better to be a live pussy than a dead tough guy, in my book. Right? Now, I'm not saying you should live on your knees. I'm saying die on your feet, but pick your battles wisely. And getting back to my city and the things that are going on here, we went over what happened with Michael Rhino. You know, the state version is that Rhino started a firefight. I don't believe that. I believe the reports that were on the news the very next day here locally with eyewitnesses from his complex who said that the feds just rolled up and killed him, execution style, in the parking lot without screaming police, halt, freeze, you're under arrest. Not a goddamn thing. That's what I believe. And I believe Donald Trump is the one who sent them to do it. Because he was wanted here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, the crime was committed in Oregon. He was in Washington. That does give the federal government jurisdiction to go ahead and apprehend him, because it's now an interstate matter. But it also gives the Washington authorities the right to apprehend him. So why did Trump interject federal troops into something like that? Of course, he just wanted to kill somebody in exchange for what happened to the Proud Boy who got killed in the streets of Portland 6 years ago. This is what set the stage, or what was the beginning stages of the occupation of Portland. They were practicing before COVID. The Beaverton Transit Center, not far from here. I drove by there one night and I saw I don't know how many freaking moving vans in formation. I've seen them parked in formation. They have been preparing for this for years, while the left and the Democrats were playing Weekend at Bernie's and parlor games about who should be who, instead of dealing with power and using power to prevent this. Merrick Garland's punk ass comes to mind. So now, here we are. Donald Trump intends to send 300 California National Guard here to Oregon. Why California National Guard? Because a federal judge in California authorized his command. But here in Oregon, our Attorney General was successful Friday night in getting a Trump-appointed federal judge to issue a scathing injunction against him calling up Oregon National Guard. The judge was thorough and, like I said, scathing in their indictment of Trump's actions. And this is a Trump appointed judge. This gives me hope. It's a temporary injunction for 14 days. It's being reviewed by the courts. But given the strength of the rebuttal by the Trump appointed judge, I don't think he's going to get what he wants here in Oregon. Deploying California National Guard to the state of Oregon is interstitial civil war. It is literally violating the sovereignty of the state of Oregon to govern itself and its citizens using another state's military force. This is the beginning of civil war. Now, Oregon and California, we like this. Washington, we like this. There's no gap between us. We're family. You wanted to fight? You came to the right place. Seattle, Portland, and Oakland live to protest, live to fight fascists. Love it. You came to the right place. You're going to get the fight you want here. But it's not going to go your way. Donald Trump is a deeply unpopular president nationally. What do you think his popularity is in a state like Oregon, one of the 3 or 4 most liberal states in America? We hate that motherfucker. Tremendously. Bigly. Hugely. We hate him. I have never once, not once, seen a Trump sign in Oregon. I'm sure if you go down south, out east, like I said, where the racists are, but that ain't really Oregon. Oregon is the Portland area. Almost 80% of the state lives in the Portland area. All right, so we are the state of Oregon. The rest of them, same hillbillies and hicks y'all got in between the cities in your states. Because make no mistake about it, the Central Valley of California, it's red, it's conservative, it's white, and it's angry. It's just as angry as every other red, conservative, white part of this country. But they're dominated by Los Angeles, San Diego, Oakland, San Francisco, Sacramento. Dominated by those cities. Were it not for those urban centers with black and brown people, California would be exactly the same. I had a chat discussion with someone the other day about Canada, right? This Canadian was in a chat room bragging about how Canada this, Canada that. And yeah, right now Canada is a more liberal place, a more welcoming place. But I told him, let Canada get brown enough and you're going to act just like they do down here. He fought me for a second. I said, okay, Mr. Trump, the solution then is for you to send all of our undocumented people to Canada and let's see how you handle that. And he shut the fuck up. Because if we did that, you would see the exact movement that's rising here, rise in Canada, which is to say racist whites don't want too many brown people in their racist white country, which is to say water is wet. We all know that. They look at us as the servant class. They'll tolerate the numbers of us that they need in order for us to serve them and support them genetically. But don't you dare approach a majority. Don't you dare gain political power. Don't you dare try to liberate your communities. Don't you dare redistribute the wealth. Oh boy, do they hate that phrase. Boy, do they hate that phrase. Redistribute the wealth. As if it shouldn't be. You and I both know better. Let's talk about this absolute shit show of a general staff meeting held by none other than Skeet Kegsbreath, the Secretary of the Department of War. I forgot to roll my joint, as a pothead would. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth called U.S. military general staff in its full capacity to Quantico, Virginia, a place where my father was trained in the U.S. Marine Corps to go fight communists in Vietnam, for a pep rally and a shit test and loyalty testing. I'm certain of a few things. I'm certain that they took the opportunity to interview a lot of these generals and admirals before they left Quantico. And I'm certain that they went home and studied the video footage of every face in that crowd. And they analyzed who was pro-Trump and who was not pro-Trump. I guarantee you they've done it. The pictures you see, the picture we all see of that crowd, that's a video still. And they're definitely analyzing it. I've never seen the U.S. government try to implement political loyalty in the U.S. military or in its departmental ranks to the degree that you are seeing right now. And the results of which are going to be a government that is completely right-winged without checks and balances, completely opposed to its people. Citizenry does not want what the right wing in this country is giving. It's being forced on the citizenry. And the more they force it, the more they entrench their power, the more the opposition will subvert their power, the more the opposition will grow, the more the opposition will organize and wait for its opportunity. See, on the left, we can't do shit. We can't do nothing. We're outgunned, we're outnumbered, everything. They got all the weapons, they got everything. And they waited, right? They didn't act up when Joe Biden was in office. They knew better. So Donald Trump goes out and buys himself a private army called the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, spending $150 billion and hiring them all into ICE. That's what he did. He calls these generals back to Quantico to shit test them strictly for the purposes of loyalty. That speech was abhorrent. First of all, if you are general staff in the U.S. Army, you worked your ass off to get there. Nobody has that handed to them. Nobody. Almost all of them went to West Point or another military academy. Almost all of them went to academies. Every last one of them have master's degrees or PhDs. Probably PhDs, most of them. They're serious people. Skeet Kegsbreath, Pete Hegseth, is a reservist 03. That is his rank. Officer rank is first lieutenant, second lieutenant, major. Lieutenant colonel, full bird colonel. That takes us to 05. 1-star general, 06. 2-star general, 07. 3-star general, 04. 4-star general. I'm sorry, my math is off. 09 is a 4-star general. He was in 03. Could you imagine being a freaking 04, a 4-star general, 4-star admiral with a command, having to listen to not an active duty 03, but a reservist 03 lecture you about your own fitness for your occupation? I wish everybody would let that sink in for a minute. Just let that sink in for a minute. A reservist, weekend warrior ass nigga 03, who somebody thought looked good and should be on TV. A fucking raving lunatic alcoholic. His staff is leaking like crazy, calling him manic, saying they don't know who's gonna walk in the door from day to day. He blows up at least twice a week. He's unstable. Guarantee you he's hitting the sauce at work. Guaranteed. He berated our soldiers and sailors. He berated our airmen. He berated our Marines. He called them fat. He called them sloppy. And you know what? The problem is with that, folks, is that we have a volunteer force of 1% of this nation. 1 freaking %. It is damn hard to get people to serve in the U.S. military. Damn hard. So now you're going to weaken it. You're going to weaken the recruiting. You're going to weaken the force by taking away people who actually wanted to volunteer. The 1% who actually want to volunteer for this force, you're going to fuck with them. This is only going to lead to Pete Hegseth drafting your children into a larger scale war because he's going to deplete the forces so horribly. And Donald Trump is going to wantonly start so much shit around the world that we're already the world's pariah state. We're already that. The world already hates us. Get used to it. Get used to it. This is going to be a long ride, folks. It's not going to be over in 26. It's not going to be over in 28. This is a long ride. This is over when Donald Trump dies. And then it's up to us how we handle it after that. But by then, unless it's soon, by then the damage will have been done and our society will have been transformed in ways that I don't want to be around to see. I really don't. I'm a leftist. Now, leftist, liberalism, they bleed into each other. I'll accept any title you want to give me that's not conservative or right wing. I don't give a shit. I just think the worst things about people on the right, because I keep seeing the worst things about people on the right. They are the least humane people in the world. So I'll take whatever title you give me that doesn't associate me with them. The Democrats have a problem in that they actually support American values as they're written and as most of us would like to see them practiced, right? To some degree. But they are also beholden to big money. They're beholden to Israel and special interests. And that has become a big problem for us all. Our government is bought and paid for. They don't serve any of us at this point, right? So the least we can do for ourselves, no matter who's in office, is harm reduction. And that is not what the GOP and American voters chose last year. They did not choose harm reduction. They chose harm. They chose to inflict harm on your kid, my kid, and it's already been done. My kid has already been terrorized by these people, having her college campus shuttered. Okay? My kid is 18 years old. She's been in college for 2 months. And she's already had her college campus shuttered because of threats on the Atlanta CAU. Not CAU, the Atlanta University Complex, the AUC. She's already had to fear going to lunch because a white man killed another white man. So we're not talking about what's coming, folks. We're talking about what is already here. And what's here is right-wing fascism, Israeli style. Israeli and Russian style right-wing fascism brought to you by Paul Manafort, President Trump's earliest campaign strategist, who also brought this form of government to Turkey in the form of Viktor Orban, who is also trying to lead the rebellion against Ukraine, the military action against Ukraine for Putin. All that stuff was set up by Paul Manafort from Long Island, who is part of that Russian mafia syndicate that Donald Trump belongs to, with Felix Sater and Paul Manafort. Look it up. Donald Trump has been in bed with the Russian mob for half of his career. And that's why we're in the trouble we're in right now. Let's go into it. The Russian mob and Donald Trump, Felix Sater. What does that have to do with what's going on right now? Well, what if I told you that Russia and Israel are far more connected than what you think they are? Because the leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is really a Russian Orthodox Jew named Benjamin Milikowski, whose father migrated to Poland as he started the Zionist movement in Russia, probably because he was forced to leave. But that is the origin of the Zionist movement that led to the creation of Israel. It started out of Russia. So as we're being dog-walked by the Prime Minister of Russia or the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and we're being dog-walked by Russian Benjamin Milikowski, the mystery should become clear to you as to why we're going through what we're going through. Donald Trump has been in bed with the Russian mafia. The Russian mafia has been lending him money through organizations like Deutsche Bank for decades. Donald Trump's a loser. He's always going to lose. And so, he's in debt. He's in debt for money. Benjamin Netanyahu sicked Jeffrey Epstein on him to honeypot his ass successfully. And it worked. There is no way in hell that Russia and Israel are not completely in concert when it comes to Donald Trump. No way in hell. I'm sure Melania was sent. I'm sure she's an agent, positive of it. She came through Jeffrey Epstein's stable. His stable of hoes. Crabapple Geronimo says, how did I land on this page? I don't remember ordering Neil deGrasse Tyson off of Temu. If you don't like it, you can fucking step, bro. It's not jokey joke time. You can fucking step. I got 197,000 subscribers. I don't need you. And before you go, oh, you ain't got no views. I did 15 million shorts views last month. What did you do? All right, then. Back to the topic at hand. Clown. We are in a global white supremacist movement as we speak. White people have shrunk down to 5% in population globally. That's what I've heard as of the most recent report. I'll have to double check that, but I've heard 5%. Crest theory, I believe, is really what's governing this country 100%. I believe that the threat of genetic annihilation to white people is what drives them materially, and eventually what causes the abuse of other people by them. And their fear of retaliation, their fear of the boomerang effect is so strong that what you see with Trump right now, these actions, they are the actions that are going to set up what they fear happening to them. Black and brown people, non-white people in America, non-white people in the world are not going to forget this. We're not. And it probably won't be my generation. It probably won't be anybody alive today. But someday, if white people keep this up globally, the world will turn. And that day may be here. Because China's ready to lead. Africa's ready to follow China into a better future. Europe has evolved into a better state. They don't even like us. All we have is the scumbag nations of the world. Russia, North Korea, Iran, if we ally with them, which I wouldn't doubt this country would. Israel, committing a genocide as we speak. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Now, what we're seeing again with these tactics being used, deploying military forces into U.S. cities, this is the result of cross-training with IDF, and it's on display. The brutality, the overwhelming force Most importantly, as a military veteran, I understand mass punishment. The military uses mass punishment because it doesn't have time to be a police force. It doesn't. This is why when people say the military is not trained to do this, this is what they mean. In basic training, you learn early what one of you do, all of you are going to get punished for. One Thanksgiving, I was in basic training. Of course, I've only been to basic training once. Although I've had nightmares about having to go back to basic training. That's a true story. Let me light up real quick. Basic training. So I joined the Army later in life. I was 28 when I joined, right? I wanted to change careers. I hated selling insurance. I knew I could do better for myself, and I was technologically inclined. So, wavering through college, couldn't quite finish. Raised in a tough place where, we ain't supposed to do well. I joined the Army at 28 years old. So I find myself in basic training with 18, 19, 20-year-olds at 28. And people that age do dumb shit, especially dick and pussy games. They just can't help it. Rightfully so. First time, some privates are fucking in a dumpster. All right, we get locked down. That's cool. Everybody got to pay for it. All right. Some more shit happens. Time goes on. We're there probably a month at this point. Thanksgiving's coming around. Columbia, South Carolina, Fort Jackson. Charlie Rock. Thanksgiving comes around. All you want to do is call mom and dad, say hi. I'm doing well, right? One of these chicks gets caught leaning out a barracks window talking to old boy. The whole damn company loses its phone privileges for the rest of the day. You talk about bitter. You talk about angry, deprived, and bitter. But in the military, that is necessary because they don't have time to repeat commands. They don't have time to repeat rules. They don't have time for your lack of discipline. This is life and death. They're taking this approach to Chicagoans. Raiding and emptying an entire apartment building because you think XYZ number of gang members or foreign nationals are in the building is not constitutional. It's illegal search and seizure every day, all day. You have to have a warrant. You have to have probable cause. You have to have a reason to run up in somebody's house and ransack them. But not if you're the federal government, not if you're Donald Trump and you've paid $150 billion to the Proud Boys and these thugs to do it to niggas and spics in Chicago. The gloves are off. This is not going to be your genteel podcast. I am not your Mr. Softside liberal. I am not Ta-Nehisi Coates. And that poor man, y'all can't say Ta-Nehisi to save your life. It is Ta-Nehisi Coates. Poor guy. Ta-Nehisi Coates is the most brilliant black academic of our time, and no one can pronounce his name. Take the time to learn. But this ain't that show. I'm from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I'm from nowhere, Pennsylvania. Dead still town. I didn't come up in a big city. I had to grow into it. I had to become something to survive in a town like this. I didn't live on welfare or in the gutters or in the projects. But you know what? That's my fucking family. My mother's from the projects. My father's from the slums. My family's descended from slaves. We came from Georgia. We came from D.C. I got family in Chicago right now. My cousin is in the north side of Chicago. The west side, pardon me. Salute to Javon. Shit gotta end, man. The shit that we're seeing right now, you will never see them do to a white family. And this is what I gotta keep repeating. The things that they do to black and brown people in this country that are not acceptable for white people. If white people got policed the way that we get policed, the crime rate would be through the roof. If white people got policed to the degree of fatherlessness that we got policed to during the crack epidemic that they started for us, their asses would be in the exact same situation with all the shootings, all the activity, all the gangs, all the hog maws. Yes, they would. They're no different. No different. Except for the fact they've had their foot on our necks for 400 years. But they are no different than us. So what do? We ask for reparations. Nah, y'all niggas don't deserve no money for the treatment. Y'all don't deserve no organizational structures to help you. You don't deserve to have the society reformed to be fair to you. You don't deserve to have your communities repaired, literally, for what we've done to you. In fact, what you deserve are the police. No. That's not good enough. You niggas need to be militarized so you can behave. We need to kill you so you can stop killing yourselves. We got to stop with the flowery language. Van Lathan, I love you. You're my brother. You on CNN. You got to do what you got to do. You on Higher Learning with Rachel. Let loose a little bit more. But the day of political correctness is over. And we black men especially got to exercise bravery for the sake of our children because they are being targeted. Mine has been targeted. I can say that literally. My city is being targeted. I can say that literally. I'm in it. This is not the sideline I'm reporting from. Part of me wants to flee, as any being would. Safety is paramount to a human being. My safety's compromised. If ICE is out here and I drive up the street and buy some weed legally in Oregon, which we do every day, all day, and ICE pulls me over and I got weed in my car, guess what? I can get a federal charge for it. And they can put me where they want to put me. Think about it. All the progress we made adds up to selective law enforcement. That would never happen to a white person. Getting pulled over, caught with an ounce of prepackaged cannabis. Shout out to Smoke Right. I told y'all, we not the politically correct show. This ain't that show. It ain't ever going to be. I would rather be funded by you than for YouTube to ever monetize my lives. Because independence matters more to me when it comes to this type of shit. Fund my sports, I don't care about it. But this is real life. And I'm not gonna run, I'm gonna fight. And you need to fight as well. There's no safe place from this in this world. No safe place. You go to Africa, they're gonna be fucking with you there. Now, I do support the Silk Road Project. I do support Africans and Chinese and Africans in Asia in general. What's going on between Africa and Asia is beautiful. Might want to be a part of that. But if you are planning to expatriate, if you are planning to leave this country, you need to be very thoughtful. You need to be very careful about where you go so that you don't jump out of one frying pan and into the fire. We mentioned Canada earlier. Yeah, Canada's cool right now. But let all of us niggas run up there. And what do you think is going to happen? They're okay with a handful here. Pick some refugees. Pick the grateful, the needy. But the people they've exploited, they've never made whole and they know it. So instead of making us whole, now they're sticking the whole military up our ass and turning us into Gazans. That's the treatment that Black America can expect under Donald Trump. Gazans. They want your territory, and they're willing to use weapons to get it. They're going to drive us out of the south and west sides of Chicago. Not a damn thing we're going to do about it, in my opinion. That's what's going to happen. West Philadelphia, North Philadelphia. They're going to drive us out of the cities. I promise you. Violently. The president told the military to use American cities for training. What kind of American president unleashes hell on his own citizens? You know, sooner or later, one of these soldiers is going to shoot their mama. One of their mothers is going to be out there protesting with a mask on, and they're going to open up fire and kill their own damn mom. I'll remind you, in this Civil War we had in 1865, we had brothers killing brothers. Literally. Because of that racism that this country was founded on. We had brothers killing brothers. So don't think for a second it can't happen again, or that it won't happen again. It can, and it is. It actually is right now happening again. Donald Trump is actually trying to instigate a civil war by sending California National Guard into Oregon. He is literally trying to instigate a civil war. Again, California and Oregon, we're not going to divide Washington. This West Coast thing is for real. We've already created the West Coast Health Alliance. The three governors are working together on a lot of other stuff as well. We are stockpiling women's health medication here in Oregon in preparation of shortages nationally. California's doing the same thing. The laws that California is passing, we follow and we pass those laws. Same thing with Washington and vice versa. We're working together to build a web of laws and an infrastructure to survive the Trump administration as states. Ultimately, that is how our country forms. And it's my belief that California, Oregon, and Washington will eventually strive to become its own country under Donald Trump. I believe Donald Trump will cause that fracture, primarily here on the West Coast. The South is going to be a lot trickier in terms of how the country fractures and what it looks like. But here on the West Coast, these three states will be the first to go. And once that happens, I believe a domino effect will occur for states like Texas, who have always been anxious to be independent. Hawaii is acting in concert with the West Coast, so they've shown allegiance to us. But Hawaii has always wanted to be independent as well. A lot of Hawaii wants to be independent. But I think the West Coast Alliance is essentially the fetal formation of a new country. And I'm saying think specifically. I don't want to express hope. I'm not a secessionist. I don't want to be accused of being a secessionist. But I'm theorizing that these will be the results, because Oregonians, Washingtonians, and Californians, we're going to be living under taxation without representation. That's going to be a battle cry, a loud battle cry here on the West Coast. And when that happens, people are going to demand that governors stop remitting federal taxes to the federal government. And then Donald Trump's really going to escalate. And then you have it. Secession. Right after that, articles of secession get drawn up and filed. And all it takes is for the Oregon State Assembly and the Oregon governor to say, we are no longer members of the United States per our rules, per our charter, per our state. We have withdrawn from the United States at this point. All it takes is a declaration of independence. The same thing that happened between us and King Charles, right? It's literally called the Declaration of Independence. So I anticipate these things will occur. Gavin Newsom is going to run for president in 2028. And Gavin Newsom will probably win. But he ain't going to be allowed to win. And when that happens, when shit goes way off the rails in 2028, because it's going to go buck nutty in 2026 as well. But when it goes way off the rails in 28, somebody like Gavin Newsom especially is going to be like, you know what? Time to start moving towards the independent side of the game, if you know what I'm talking about. That West Coast Alliance, which would be the second largest economy in the OECD out of 20, right behind the United States. So immediately we would be a global force. Immediately we're a nuclear armed nation. You'd have to deal with it. We are making different trade alliances. We're doing things out here on the West Coast already, like I said, to subvert the Trump administration. It's happening. So the pressure on Portland is going to ramp up. The pressure on Washington, California is going to ramp up. Seattle, you're next. You know that. Oakland, you damn sure know you're next. I was surprised when he went to LA first. Honestly, I was surprised. I thought for sure it would be Oakland, because Oakland had some pretty bad crime problems over the past couple years. But when he went to LA, I'm like, all right, man, you ain't serious. You really ain't. If you want ICE in LA, that's one thing. But you're talking about Marines and National Guard, that's a totally different thing. You don't need that in Los Angeles. LA's peaceful. For all that gangbanging and shit, LA's murder rate ain't even in the top 20. It ain't. Look it up. So that's what we're dealing with, y'all. We're dealing with a state of chaos. This is the State of Union. State of the Union in 2025 is chaos. Every day we wake up not knowing what to expect from the madman at 1600 Pennsylvania, from the Mad King. All I know is this. The Supreme Court literally paved the way for an autocracy. They literally paved the way for a dictatorship. Prior to Donald Trump's election, the fascists in the Supreme Court allowed unlimited dark money from around the world to pour into our political campaign system. And as soon as you do that, you invite foreign actors like Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin and President Xi to interfere with your elections in a million ways. You invited them to do that with the money. We were already underrepresented by the House and the Senate and the President before Citizens United and McCutcheon allowed all that dark money. Once they allowed it, we were totally off the table. The people completely do not matter to Washington, which is the only thing I understand about the MAGA movement. Their rage for Washington. I get it. But you target it at the wrong people. And the solutions that you choose to absolve that rage are the wrong solutions. You choose hatred. You choose racism. You choose misogyny. You choose to hide behind your religion and its dogma, knowing half of you don't follow half of it half of the time. Knowing you don't. Knowing that if you had a pastor or a biblical scholar or a rabbi or an imam who knew the text follow you around every day, you know damn well they would catch you going to hell 20 times a day. You know they would. But you sit here and you judge people. And right now I'm talking to the white Christian evangelical nation that they want to build and that they are affecting on us, on the rest of us. This country is likely not going to be a majority white. To concentrate the power into white Christian nationalist minority hands is a recipe for disaster. Because you'll have no choice but to kill in order to maintain your power. You'll have no choice but to maintain that violent segregation that I spoke of earlier. Crest theory. And we've seen it. It's called South Africa. We've seen what you will do. We know what you are setting up here. And we're not going to let it. For Pass the Joint Podcast, this is your man Zen Master. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Hit that hype button as well. Thank you all for watching tonight. Like I said, we'll be back with more shows like this, man. No frills. Just get to the point. Hop on the mic. Say how I feel. Keep it respectful. Again, we don't ever want to encourage violence. We want the violence in America to stop. But, man, what do you do when you're facing fascism? How has this country responded to fascism in its history? I'll let you answer that in the chat. Maybe in the comments. Salute the game, gang. We'll see y'all in the next go round. Peace.